Reflections, want to support this channel? Check out my merch shop on Etsy. I have a lot of cool stuff. Hey Reflections. So today I'm excited to present to you a new podcast with YouTuber Viewsthrume. I first came across his content when he actually reached out to me, and then I clicked on his YouTube videos and I was just so excited to see what he was doing. He first started his YouTube channel when he was around 16 years old. And I think that's pretty amazing to see the younger generation just being so in touch with their spirituality at such a young age. And to actually be doing the work that he's doing was just amazing. I clicked on a few videos and my two favorites was the one with him talking about the Ajna chakra with his father. I thought that was the most amazing and adorable video ever. And his video on enlightening experiences at music festivals. I thought that was just amazing and raw and beautiful and honest. And I decided that I wanted to have him on the show and have him tell us his experience and what got him on the spiritual journey. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. It was really fun connecting with him and sharing space, and I had a great time. Anyway, Reflections, enjoy the show. All right, so yeah, introduce yourself to everybody.
So I am Jake. I have a YouTube channel, Viewsthrume, and my main goal in life and life purpose, and the only thing that would truly fulfill me is being able to broadcast this crazy spiritual and consciousness shift that's happening in society. I want to accelerate it and get more people on board.
Very cool. So what brought you onto the spiritual path?
So ever since I can remember, I've always been a super existential thinker. I've always pondered existence, the universe, like what this is, how I found myself like inside of a body, like what is going on, you know? And I always valued logic. So I immediately, my whole life up until I was like 16, 17, I got really, really into science, mainly like reading science books, learning as many facts about the universe as I could, because I thought science was the best tool to figure out or get closer to the answer of what's going on here with existence. Like, what is this? And so I kept learning about that. That made me even more mind-fucked about reality. And then when I was about 16, I started researching psychedelics, and that was the thing that showed me for the first time that, at least personally, an even better way to explore this existence, explore consciousness, is to go within and meditate and learn practices and yeah.
Yeah. What was an experience that, you know, kind of guided you, or what was like the breakthrough that you had?
It was just so progressive throughout my life. It's really hard to pinpoint anything. I have certainly had experiences where I've directly felt the oneness with nature and some other epiphanies, but it's just been such a progressive path, it's hard to pinpoint it.
Yeah. You shared a video called documenting enlightening experiences at music festivals.
Yeah.
What were some early enlightening experiences that you've had that you can share?
That what?
That you can share with everyone.
Early ones. Well, I would say my first like enlightenment feeling, I wouldn't call it like a full enlightening experience, but it was for me. It was like my second time doing mushrooms, and I was listening to this beautiful song, and then for the first time I felt the universe, and I felt the love of it all.
Yeah.
And I cried, and I was just like, oh my God. Like I felt reality, and it was amazing. I've never like looked at the universe as any kind of an entity or a conscious thing, but at that moment I just felt it communicating with me because I'm a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I've had quite a few experiences like that myself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Various substances, shamanically, obviously, not in a party setting.
Oh yeah.
But I can see how a festival setting where people are just going off doing their own thing.
Because most people have the intention to expand their consciousness. So it's not like a rave or anything.
Yeah.
You know, like it is a good place to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had one experience with that.
Like a festival?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, nice.
2CI.
Where was it?
It was in Manchester, in England. We took 2CI with a whole bunch of people at a festival. Obviously, in a controlled environment, we were together, and you just felt this synergy, like within everyone, and you just feel everybody's energy, and you're like, oh wow, like we're telepathic.
Yeah, absolutely. I think some of that has to do with the fact that psychedelics dampen the ego. And I believe that we all share the same consciousness. Our consciousness and awareness comes from the same exact place. But the ego separates it. It's a barrier between consciousness and everything else. So, like, when you take the ego away, you're all, like, more one. You know what I mean? Because, like, the consciousness is the same, but without the ego separating it, you guys are all on the same level.
Yeah, you're just little avatars. And that's the way you interface with 3D. But
yeah.
That's just the outside you. That's not all of you, and that's not within you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What did you experience together, if you could remember or talk about?
Well, I did a trip report video that got demonetized, and then I took it down along with my other trip reports. But I did feel the energy within everybody, and everybody was feeling the same energy, and we just all flowed in like this current of energy. And it was just like circulating within us, and everything was perfect. Like it just felt perfect.
Yeah.
And it was great. It was a great time. I had a great time. That was a really cool festival to go to. But yeah, that was my experience there. The first time I had taken mushrooms was actually at a festival in New York, some EDM thing. And it was like 2011. And it was the first time I had taken mushrooms. And I started seeing spiders and like spider webs. And I wasn't afraid of the spider or the spider web. And I started seeing like constellations within like the stars. And the stars started like turning into like these things. I'm like, what is going on here? So it was always in the back of my mind.
And say that thing again about the spider web again.
Yeah, so I saw this like spider on a spider web. And
Yeah.
it was just like, what? I just like wanted to touch it. Normal Samina wouldn't touch a spider or a spider web, but
Right.
the Mina on some mushrooms was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, let me touch this. This is so cool.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen things like that happen.
Yeah.
People like less afraid of bugs and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And that was one of my very first early on experiences. And I was just like, that's kind of interesting. Like, what's going on here? And then
Yeah.
I heard that you they had maps over there at the festival that you were at.
Yes.
And I saw maps at the New Horizons conference here in New York. So that's how I kind of got into DMT. That's how I kind of started researching. And I researched DMT for a while before I...
Oh, yeah.
Because, you know, mind-altering substance. I hadn't really taken psychedelics until later in life. So
that's good.
I had never taken, like, you know, you started early on. I started when I was 23. And then, like, in college and art school, I took MDMA. I took acid. I no, I didn't take acid. Sorry. I took mushrooms, I think, then too. But it wasn't in like a high enough amount that like I saw anything visually. So like I didn't really mess with it until I was 23.
Now, when you did, were you pretty read up on what psychedelics can do?
When I was older, yeah. Once I tried the mushrooms and like the MDMA, I was just like, you know, didn't really get into it because I was in college and I wanted to like graduate. So I kind of put that on hold for a good, you know, 2-3 years. And then I got back into it when I was 23. Again, a little bit of mushrooms, didn't go too far. Stopped thinking about it because, again, I was like, you know, working, doing things. And then when I was 28, 27, 28, 26, around that time, I started researching, like actually reading books and listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos. And I just got super interested. So I went to the New Horizons conference. I went to see maps. And I met really cool people there. And I just so happened to, like, you know, stumble upon DMT. And it changed my life. Like, when I first...
I bet, man.
Yeah, when I first... Have you done DMT before?
Yes, but no breakthrough.
No breakthrough. Okay. So,
entities told me I was not ready.
Entities told you were not ready.
Yes.
I can see that because, again, I can totally see that. And it makes sense because when you do go in, it's like, whew. It made me grow up really quickly, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah, I felt that when I was in high school. Cause, like, I got all these lessons, and my peers were like 16, 17, and I didn't really relate. Not to be on a high horse or anything. But that's what it felt like.
I understand that as well myself.
Yeah.
And it's really weird because when I was a child, I always felt like ancient, like an old soul. And now that I'm like 30, I'm like at that weird stage where just like I still feel ancient. I just feel like we're literally reality, the simulation. So like we're timeless.
Yeah. Do you believe in the concept of past lives and like some people's souls have been on Earth longer than others?
Do I? I've never really had a past life experience that I can actually say, yes, that was my past life, and I totally know that because I don't. But I feel that if that's what people think they feel, I mean, I feel that we just keep on coming back and we keep on learning and playing and experiencing and understanding, because what else would you do? You know? It's boring. Consciousness needs to break apart and become all of these things. They're just like microscopes. You know?
You know what's really interesting? Just speaking of maps, like something that I've been thinking about lately. And you are aware Oakland and Denver decriminalized psilocybin, and MDMA is going to be legalized for therapeutic use in 2021. And that is just like a whole new realm of psychiatric healing, because what Western medicine does is it puts a Band-Aid on your problem. It numbs you. It releases chemicals to like settle the stress hormones and all these things. But what psychedelics do, they don't mess with the chemicals in your brain that makes you feel better. They let you get to the root of the problem and solve it.
Yeah.
So it's not there anymore. It's just, it's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. I definitely feel that as well. And like, that's why I started using psychedelics as an alternative to anything else, really. I mean, you can really solve your problems because it's the first thing that you see. And it's just like coming right at you.
It's what?
It's the first thing that you see, and it's coming right at you like a bubble. And you're like, oh no. And if you resist, the trip just gets bad.
Yeah, here's an interesting quote. Using psychedelics to try to escape reality is like running into a police station to escape the law. I was talking to this girl at this last spiritual festival that I went to, and she was describing to me this terrifying mushroom trip that she had. And she was saying that she was trying to fight it the whole time. She didn't want to let it take over and this and that. And I said, well, that was probably an ego death experience. And ego death is hard to go through for a certain reason, because it actually feels like you're dying, or it feels like something bad. But you need to let go.
Exactly. You need to let go. That is one thing that I was understanding and experiencing with my last LSD trip that I did before.
How'd it go?
Very interesting. Well, that was the one that I can't really talk about, but I will talk about like what the trip was about and like what it made me realize. It was a quarter tab microdose.
Wow.
I am a very, 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 very sensitive person, and I feel it. And this stuff was very strong, and I didn't want to mess around and like just be outside of my like reality, and like I was not in my home, you know what I mean? So like I didn't feel like I could completely let go. And it was. You
did not?
No, because I wasn't in my home. If you're in your house, you can just let go. You know what I mean? But I was.
I thought you meant you figuratively were not in your home. Like you mentally went to. No, okay, you weren't in your house.
Yeah, no, I wasn't in my house, so like I couldn't completely relax. That's why, you know, my next experience is going to be in my environment. You know, probably with my partner. And do it that way, and then I can actually full on surrender, I think.
Definitely.
I always feel like when I'm outside, you know what I mean? Like I can't fully let go.
Yeah, I'd say if you plan on completely letting go, definitely be in a comfortable setting like your house.
Yeah. I feel like that's the where you can literally let go the most, and just like, you know, So yeah, that I'm looking forward to that maybe in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, not my last experience was all about letting go, surrender, but also building myself up again. Because the last experience I had with acid, like 2 years ago, no, yeah, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when I first started my channel, I had the ego death experience because it was literally the first time I did acid. So never did it before, had the DMT experience, stopped the ego death in the DMT experience. I'm like, all right, feels like I'm dying. Like I'm done with this. And like with DMT, it's easier to just like stop it because you're like at the end you can kind of like have control, but at the beginning you can't. And it kind of turns into this like ego death experience. But again, that's like the transformation that you need at that time. You just don't really want to do it. So that's why it's really good to have a shaman or a trip sitter or somebody that's like knows what they're doing to guide you into this experience. I wouldn't tell people to like just go at it alone. Like I did, but I'm crazy and I'm a YouTuber and don't do what I do. But I would definitely tell people to like do it in groups, do it with a shaman, do it with somebody that like that's their job to like facilitate, and you can feel safe and like it's gonna be okay. Like that's when I when I had that, and I specifically went to a shaman to do the 2 tabs of acid. First time I did acid.
Wow.
Yes.
Where'd you go?
In Canada.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went there and I had that ego death experience, and I went through the other side and was birthed and reborn and thought I died and I was in heaven. But that wasn't the case. I was just on acid. Like, and I had full on amnesia. And he was like,
amnesia? Like you forgot who you were?
I forgot where I was. I forgot who I was. I forgot what you were doing, where I was. And they had to tell me, hey, I'm a shaman. You paid me to be here. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I remember.
Oh, yeah. It's such a weird feeling when, like you're not sure if you took anything. You don't even know what a drug is. And it's just like, what?
Yeah, you've been that far that you've let go of everything. So you don't even know, you're disoriented. You don't know who you are. You don't know where you are. So like
so
that's
weird.
That right, and that's where I was at. But it was a beautiful experience, and it really did help so much with a lot of healing. And ever since then, like I've been just researching here and there. Haven't done it in a while. That's why I've been like, researching again in the past. So, and like, again, it's just something that you like reference, I think every few years for me, you know what I mean? Like, again, because I'm sensitive, I'm more of a lucid dreamer. I like to astral project. I like to learn that way. I find that lucid dreams and your dream space, like, first off, what the frick is going on when we go to sleep? Where do we go?
Yeah.
What happens? What is that? Like, that in itself, it's creepy. It creeps me out because I'm just like, where do you go? Do you go to like
it's fucking weird
alternate realities? Do you go like in different, like, are they just dream sequences? Is reality just like a dream? Like, is it one and the same? I have gone pretty far with lucid dreaming, and I have to find myself checking my hands every so often. I'm like, all right, am I dreaming or am I asleep? And I'm like,
reality
I'm
checks.
awake. Reality tests. You have to, because
one thing I forgot to mention actually is that getting into lucid dreaming is one of the main things that really pushed me in the spiritual path, just because I got obsessed with it when I was like 13. And so, just reading those forums naturally took me into the field of like philosophy and psychedelics too and stuff. So yeah. Have you ever had a lucid dream that seems more real than this reality?
Yep.
That's insane.
Yep. Have you?
No, actually. They've been pretty real, but I wouldn't say like more.
Terrifying. Look at my Meeting with the Devil video and and alien contacts.
I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
I'm crying in that one. I'm super emo.
Oh.
Oh my God. But I went through it. Like, I went through it, and it was so terrifying. But it's created, like, it's a dream that you remember so vividly that even 3 years, 2 years down the road, you're still thinking about it and picking it apart and doing artwork about it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's just like,
do you think you've grown from it though?
Of course. Like, it's
nice.
just, it's
Good.
shown you, they're symbolic, just like deeply like layered, just stories that you're constantly unraveling. And it's amazing, and I've had quite a few experiences. That's where my channel has headed. It's more of a lucid dream, astral projection, third eye video, and I know a lot of people are just like, oh, that's bullshit, but if enough of us are talking about it, it's happening. We're not all hallucinating. Like, we are all hallucinating. Yeah. Wait, we are all hallucinating, actually.
Yeah,
and it's all an illusion. So, yeah, and we're just seeing past into other dimensions and into
another thing,
subconscious.
Like as I've gone down this path, my mom was like, "What are you doing?" And I just said, you hear the term spiritual awakening throughout society. Like, you hear that all the time. It's not a bunch of bullshit. Like, there is such thing. However you want to look at it, there are spiritual awakenings that can happen. And I've gone through some of those experiences, and I'm just, like, riding that wave. Like, it's actually a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've all been having them very recently and connecting. And I think that's how I use YouTube, as a way to connect with other people that have seen that, and it startled them to the point of going on the internet and making a video about it.
Well, that's what happened with us, right?
And
that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's something that's just like so powerful that, like, when I first had researched DMT, I wanted to tell everyone. Like, I just wanted to, like, shout it, like, to everyone.
I think everybody that starts researching psychedelics and that just gets into that kind of side of them, everybody goes through a phase where they just want to tell everybody, and that's all they want to talk about. Yeah.
I've become more selective with who I have that conversation with. And there are great places to have that conversation at. That's why I went to Kazan, the Chapel of Sacred Mirrors, because that's a great place to have a conversation.
The one in New York?
The one in New York.
Right. I want to go to the one in San Francisco. It looks amazing.
Yeah, definitely. I went there and, like, there was a lady and she's, like, talking about, like, this website on, like, where to get herbs and, like, different things. And I'm like, wow, like, just so much information and so much, so many resources. You just see people from all walks of life coming and really just seeking a sense of community and belonging and healing.
And to not feel like they're going crazy, because if you're going through a consciousness shift, like, you can just feel so isolated. And this happened to me, and I've talked to many other people that it's happened to. They feel, or they went through a period where they thought they were going crazy.
Yeah.
Because it can just be so like shocking, like, what the fuck kind of ideas is my mind downloading from the universe? What's going on? You know, so being able to find like-minded people can be so helpful to you.
Yeah. So what were your experiences that made you think that you were going crazy? Because I've had a lot of them.
Oh yeah. What made me think that I was going crazy?
Yeah.
Again, nothing specific, really, but just not to sound like I'm on a high horse where I feel like my thinking is above anyone else, but I knew it was so vastly different than like anyone else I knew as far as I was concerned. Like I'd just be sitting in school looking at the teacher and just thinking, what the fuck? Like, just, I mean, like, everybody has those certain mindfuck moments where they become conscious of the fact, like, oh, wow, like, we're on a spinning rock going around this sun and just in the universe, and we just find ourselves popping out of a vagina into these bodies. But, like, I was thinking that 24/7 and in a constant state for, like, 2 years of mindfuckness. And I also just really got these downloads from the universe of this, what felt like sacred or very true knowledge. And I didn't know anyone else that has gone through that. Now I do, thankfully. But at the time, I was like, I'm either going through a spiritual awakening or I'm going through schizophrenia. And I was like, I should probably see a mental doctor, honestly. Now I don't think, I feel really good now, but going through that, it really, really worried me, actually, in certain senses.
Yeah, I had a very similar experience.
You did?
That I was telling
How?
you. Well, my last experience had induced a state of psychosis because, again, I was in that infinite loop of thinking, and then everything started to talk at me, and I was just like, oh shit, this is not normal.
Yeah.
This is not normal at all.
Yeah.
And I was just like...
What do you mean things started to talk at you?
Like, you know, like when everything's like super, like, everything's telepathic, and if you just like put your attention to something, you could just know everything about it. And that's exactly how the dream space is. If you lucid dream at all, or like astral project, you can gather information from your dream. So you can point your attention to something and just gather information from it. Kind of like the DMT space. You know what I mean? Where just like everything is thought.
Oh, yeah.
And everything is energy and vibration, and you're just like feeling that, and it's just 1,000 times more amplified. And like that's what I felt, and I was just like, oh, I'm not even tripping right now. I just took DMT like a few days ago, and like I had opened my third eye. I blew it open. That's why I wanted to talk about third eye with you, because you've had experiences with third eye as well. And I had a migraine for like 2 weeks, and I was in like darkness. Like I couldn't open any blinds or windows. I couldn't go outside. It was just too much.
Do you think that was like some kind of energy release or something?
It was definitely an energy release, and it was something that it needed to happen. But it was just so intense that it was very traumatic, you know? And like, it's very hard to like, you have to be very kind to yourself. And at that point, like, this is why I talk about it so much, because at that time I couldn't watch anything spiritual. I couldn't just thinking was hard. It was too much, you know, and it just felt like my brain was mush, and I was just tired. And
what do you think that was exactly?
that was like after receiving a powerful upgrade and like having this crazy download and your third eye cracks open. You're a little tired, and like as an empath, when you're releasing so much energy, it's just exhaustion, and your body really needs to heal. You need to heal, and it's just a healing process. Usually,
So it was like a transition too.
Transition, exactly. Yeah. And you've had all this gunk inside of you for so long, and it's so toxic, and you're just letting all of that go. And of course, you're going to be very uncomfortable for a while, transitioning to another vibration. Yeah, so that's how I felt.
One other thing that at this point, I think I was somewhat over the fear of going crazy. But one interesting spiritual transition I went through was, well, firstly, I want to describe to you this download I got from psychedelics, where we look at the universe or the human body, for example, right? And the human body, it's this one interrelated organism, right? But what anatomy does is take definitions and attach them to every little bit of it, right? And like separates it in our mind and makes it feel like it's all made up of these little tiny things, you know? Like we'll just put definitions on every little bit of it. And we do that with the universe, you know, even though it's just one entity, it's all one, right? Yeah. So like there was a month period where everything I would look at, the concept that society has taught me about would just collapse, and then it just turns into just like pure energy, like just this one thing. It was really weird. It's really hard to describe, but yeah, that was the transition I've been through.
Yeah, you feel this oneness. And that's what I felt. Usually when seeing like this circle within a circle, or the singularity, you feel that in DMT. Also,
I'd imagine.
In hypnagogic states as well. Like I've had that experience, just in meditation alone, in the hypnagogic state. So tell us some experiences you've had with the third eye, and when you started getting acquainted with it. I know you had that Ajna chakra video with your father, which I thought was so cute and adorable and awesome.
Thanks.
And your dad seems super chill and kind of spiritual.
Yeah, he is in a way, for sure.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so that question, it's hard for me to answer because I'm not too read up on the third eye and the chakra system and everything. I've experienced some third eye events and chakra openings and whatever, but like I'm not read up on it enough to know like what was a third eye experience. You know, like I don't know. I guess I would assume the Ajna light was a third eye experience.
Yeah. You know? So basically what I do is first off, I would look up some Tom Campbell. I tell everybody first when they're thinking about like lucid dreaming and astral projection, because he's a really good resource, and he has a book that he's written about it. It's great.
Right.
But for me, I guide myself into a state of no thought, the hypnagogic state between wake and sleep. And that's usually when I am able to, or my brain is able to produce, like your father was saying, these black and white like blobs that you see. And it's for me, it's greenish blue, green and like bluish purple, kind of like the what is that? The Ouroboros, the sky, the purple and blue sky.
Borealis.
Yeah, there you go. Thinking of Ouroboros.
Yeah.
Something about something different. But anyway, so it's purple and blue for me. And it's usually like circles within circles. And I'll start seeing that. And like Terence McKenna says, like, look at the back of your eyelids. Well, you don't do that just when you're taking DMT or psychedelic. You do that in meditation as well.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you can actually start seeing little visuals. I will see little specks.
Yeah.
What looks like stars. These purple and blue circles within circles. And they start turning into cartoons, or it looks like you're like remote viewing into like different dimensions or like realities. And it's just seeing your mind and like your imagination right when you're going to sleep. And you can actually access different things, and you get a lot of spiritual upgrades. Like I see a lot of sacred geometry. That's why I do a lot of sacred geometry. Yeah. It's because I actually see the flower of life. I actually see the star tetrahedron. It's things that I see within my my hypnagogic state. So that's what third eye is to me. It's kind of like a light show. Sometimes you can have contact with entities. You can see different things. Sometimes it's not very fun. Sometimes it's really scary, but you have to have the courage to go within and have no fear. Kind of like psychedelics.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not too read up on like all these spiritual fields, but there's a way I interpret sacred geometry. So if you want to tell me if this aligns with what you think or not, that'd be cool. I'd imagine that these sacred geometric symbols are just natural representations of vibrations of the universe, right? Vibrations that the universe makes. And you see them naturally because we are the universe. We're one with the universe. We're part of it. So naturally, they appear in your mind, just like they appear everywhere else.
They're
like,
also
is that
the building blocks of us? I mean, when you look at us on a subatomic level, it is sacred geometry. Subatomic particles is sacred geometry.
Yeah.
So, of course, it would be, we would be seeing what we were made of. So, definitely.
Yeah. Totally.
So, there are so many, again, levels or like ecosystems. Like there's the electric universe, the subatomic universe, frequency, and like everything is all entangled.
Thank you.
Very cool. So, what was your favorite experience at a festival? Because it seems like that's your thing, or that's like what you're vibing with now. How has meeting people, and do you have any like tips for a lot of people that are also going through this, that are very like you said, on this path, very reclusive, and it's very hard to meet people? How can people get outside of that and get outside of their shell and meet people on their own frequency or vibration and get involved?
Well, firstly, I would say that this spiritual awakening or consciousness shift that a lot of us have been through would agree that it's kind of something that you have to go through on your own, from what I've seen. And also, regarding meeting people that are on the same wavelength, I have better tips that are more quantifiable, but I think when you reach that certain state of mind, you will naturally attract people that are there too, because anybody you run into that's on that level, you will naturally figure out somehow that they're there too. Yeah. And,
Okay, so basically, mind your vibe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any techniques that you use for that?
For what?
For just staying more centered, not getting into that self-destructive pattern of behavior and being more exercising oneness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do you do that within yoga or meditation or?
Yes. Certainly. Firstly, putting out as much love and positivity as you possibly can. With every interaction, with everything you do, think about how it will spread through society, no matter how big or small your project or your impact is, you think. Just put out as much love and positivity as possible. And then, think about how act on what you think will raise the vibrations of society the most.
Yeah. What advice would you give to people that are thinking about taking the psychedelic route, but they're not very sure? What are some things that that made you take the plunge yourself?
That made me
into spirituality and higher consciousness.
That made me take the plunge into spirituality, not just tripping.
Yeah, no, not just. I mean, it's to me, it's one and the same, but not.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah. I mean, that's again a really gradual progression. Mm-hmm. But I mean, if I had to say one thing that made me go into spirituality, it was my psychedelic experiences. Mm-hmm. And if you're considering exploring the psychedelic headspace or having one trip, first I would say weigh out the pros and cons. There's plenty of online resources you can find. And also ask yourself if you feel ready for something that could very well change your life. Yeah. Like an actual change. You have... over the course of people's lives, they have solidified mental pathways where they automatically look or think about something in a specific way. Psychedelics can tear that down. Yeah. So are you ready to have your ego dismantled in certain ways? Some people don't feel the ego dissolution of it, but it happens a lot.
Everybody reacts very differently.
What?
Everybody reacts very differently.
And it's super subjective, you're right.
And it's super subjective because for me, a tiny amount goes a long way. For my fiance, take 2 tabs. He's good. I'm like, I can't do that. I just can't physically do that. But I understand that there are some people that can do that.
I do feel like people that have opened up those certain doors in their mind with meditation or with psychedelics, mm-hmm. It doesn't take much for it to blow it wide open. If I take a couple hits of weed, I'm Yeah. That door's already open, so it just takes a little bit of something to make it just blow wide open,
Exactly. That's exactly how I feel as well. And mm-hmm. That's why, just smoking weed is a psychedelic experience.
It's insane.
Yeah, and even having, just very deep, introspective, conversations on it will, catapult me into
absolutely
a full-on psychedelic experience.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation can, too, especially meditation on marijuana. Using that as, a catalyst. And another thing for third eye that I was recently doing, I've been putting these root oils on my third eye. On my paintings and stuff like that, as I'm painting. And I just put it on my painting, and like I just put a little bit on my third eye, whatever. And when I was going to sleep, I had full-on visions, full-on psychedelic experience visions with this oil. And I'm like, what? So
what do you think it did to trigger that?
I don't know, but it's a root that's apparently very powerful and visionary, because other people that had bought that product had also experienced the same thing I did. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
Had weights strapped to every limb. Yeah. And since I have been a little more persistent on my life's purpose and coming from my true consciousness and awareness, and since quitting this job that I hated and pursuing something I'd like more and going into the avenues I want to make my life revolve around, I have good energy, you know?
Yeah.
Like when you follow that, you feel fulfilled. Like I've actually felt lighter since I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I wasn't aligned with my calling and what I was good at or anything. I just didn't have any inspiration, and all of a sudden everything just came together when I started healing.
Yeah.
Deeply healing myself and just opening up a more empathetic, telepathic, doorway into myself.
And you definitely, like you said, you definitely have to work on yourself first, because if you can't help the world or anyone else until you feel good and have helped yourself.
Yeah.
Because you put your own energy out there, and if your energy is not aligned, you don't have any aligned energy to give to other people.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's all within like your so when I was saying like I don't really talk to a lot, like I spend a lot of time alone. I can count on my hands how many times I'm just like, oh my God, I made that person feel a certain way, or you know what I mean? Like I'm very mindful of like how I make people feel when I have an interaction with them. And I like, you just come from a more loving, understanding, respectful place. Of just
you don't put on personas. There's no persona. It's a pure connection.
It's a pure connection, and you're just connecting to somebody's soul versus from like, competition or trying to like, show off or whatever. It's more of like,
it's real.
It's real, and I feel you.
There's no like intentions behind it other than connecting with someone. That's the intention, to connect with someone.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a very funny thing. I've had some interesting interactions in my everyday life with people where you're just like, oh, I just want to connect to their spirit. But people sometimes have like agendas, and you're like, oh, that's weird. Like, that's weird. That's a weird thing. Like, that's from like an alien perspective. You're like, oh, people do that? Like,
wait, can you say that one more time?
Like from an alien, like starseed perspective, you're like, oh, people do that? Like
do what?
Like connect with people for like ulterior motives and stuff.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
And like, I feel that's why I really resonate with psychonauts, because
for
the most part, like, we've all been to that place where you said, where you're just like,
and I mean, like a lot, just a whole bunch of this, a whole bunch of things we've talked about. A lot of it has to do with getting a lot of the ego out of the way. Like when we connect with someone, of course, there has to be ego there to separate yourself and to talk, but it's less of an egoic place, I think, when you're truly connecting with someone. That's why I love these festivals, actually. That's what, like, most interactions are. It's awesome.
Do you have any, like, do you have any, like, tools that you use? Like certain herbs or crystals or, like, meditation techniques or anything that you can find where people can use to ground themselves, align themselves, just so they can keep that energy where they can attract what they are,
Mm-hmm. Give me 1 second to think about that. As far as grounding yourself, of course, meditation is 100% necessary if you want to ground yourself, unless you're like always in a flow state. And then also make sure to bring some stuff or some aspects of the meditation experience into your life, and you get into a flow state. Like, don't attach too much to your thinking as much as you can. Just go with the flow, you know? And when you're not thinking as much about your actions, you will synchronistically go to the right places and meet the right people. If you're letting what happens be guided by the universe, and your more pure awareness, then you're going to be brought to the right places, and you're going to be more grounded and present and enjoy life more and end up in the right situations.
Nice. When you did that video with that enlightening experience, what were you doing that brought on such emotion, and why did you, like, were you like showing that emotion because of like unconditional love?
Say it again?
Were you showing a lot of that emotion because of like the unconditional love that you felt in your heart?
Are you talking about like the cosmic joke?
Yeah. What were you feeling at that moment?
So the whole like 8 hours previous to that, I went on this amazing introspective journey, and I had some heart-opening experiences. So I was in a really ego-dissolved and philosophical headspace. And then what I did specifically to bring it on, I was literally just meditating, just looking at the sky and everything else. And this, what it seemed like, fundamental truth about the universe just came to me. And it was funny as hell. And you asked what I felt. I did talk about it in the video, but it was just seeing, in a certain aspect, the simplicity of existence. Just that it's literally just an expression of consciousness is all it is. And thinking about my whole life and everyone else's lives, how they don't know what it is. They trick themselves into thinking it's something weird or neutral or whatever. And then just like seeing how beautiful it is and how simple it is was just so funny, because it's like, that's all it is. Oh my God. You know, it's so funny and beautiful.
Yeah. See, I have experiences like that in my dream space.
Wow.
Yeah.
Have you gotten some like amazing epiphanies and lucid dreams?
Yes.
What do you think about being in the dream state brings those thoughts on?
I don't know, but it seems like I'm working with an entity. I'm working with my higher self. I'm working with guides, because it's this ruminating thought current of, I've reached enlightening states in my dream space.
Whoa.
Yes, I can actually say I've had that experience, and I've woken up, and it's like a dream. You're trying to grasp onto it and remember, and you're waking up remembering, but it's just this thought current that you're having, this like brainwave or frequency that you're riding throughout the whole entire time, and you're just like ruminating on this thought, and it's usually one of self-love, healing, evolution, progress, change, letting go, and just feeling. I've literally said, "Oh my God, this is enlightenment," in my dream space, and like, while I'm dreaming.
If you could put it into words, like, what kind of enlightening state was it? If you could describe it to me at all.
Bliss. It was just pure bliss. And you were just feeling all loving. It was unconditional love, and you're just having love for everything and everyone, and you're completely at peace. And there's nothing to worry about, and like all of your worries are garbage and bullshit and don't even matter because they're all an illusion.
Now, what did you do within the dream to bring that on? Anything specific?
I was working in that dream space and just was like, it was a thought. It was just a thought.
Yeah.
And you're like following that thought and you're kind of like riding that frequency or thought. And you're just ruminating on just bliss and love and just all loving and understanding and compassionate and empathetic. And it's just like beauty and bliss and just amazingness all wrapped up into one. And like that's why I'm just like, oh man, I'm loving the dream space because there's just so much we can learn.
Wow.
So I do a daily 2 times a day meditation. I wake up, I go to sleep, guide myself into a hypnagogic state, use my herbs and ormus and, you know, oils and whatever, and this is a practice. Like, you practice, you work out a muscle, you're working out your third eye. And so I have oil over here. Like, I'm literally working it out like a muscle, and just every day, sometimes you're tired, sometimes, you know, it's too much. Sometimes, you know, the moon is not in the right phase.
Right.
And sometimes it's time to rest. So I feel like I'm very sporadic, just like with my art. I work in like spurts, and I have dreams and hypnagogic visions in spurts.
Wow.
But yeah, so
that's so intriguing to me. I've had a good amount of lucid dreams, but I can't say there's been too much that I've gained from it, from the experiences. But maybe if I go back now, I'll have something to learn.
Absolutely.
I'll have to see.
What do you think is the next step in evolution and consciousness? Where do you think we're headed?
Like society-wise?
Society-wise, culture-wise. Do you think it's going to be more psychedelic and loving and open and, and woke? You know?
Yeah,
and
I do think so.
And progressive.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. So, in the 60s, there was that whole hippie counterculture revolution that was going on, anti-war, love, all this kind of stuff. And there was no organization to it, and the government was able to stop it. But they can't now because we have the internet. We have information. People will act up and say it's bullshit if they try to stop it now. And so it's definitely going to keep progressing. And the reason why it's going to make a change is because for the last 5-10 years, all this hippie stuff is just getting bigger and bigger. And there are actually, if you can't feel it, you can't feel the vibe, if you can't see it right before your eyes, there are some things you can look at that are pretty strong indicators that it's definitely happening. The rise of health foods, veganism, that's just like one small indicator. These like truly, truly profound festivals are popping up all over, and people are getting more into it. Consciousness is rising for sure, you know? And yeah, I think there's just many indicators that, at least to us, make it undeniable that this stuff is growing.
Yeah. It is growing. Yeah, I've had a few interesting experiences where I'll be walking, you know, and hearing a woke conversation somewhere nearby.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, totally. Do you, in public, do you ever meet people that are on this wavelength?
Yeah, of course.
It's always fun when that happens.
Yeah, it is really fun when that happens. You're like, whoa, the Matrix is talking to me.
Yes.
So what are your theories on that? Like, do you think that we're just living in this weird simulated reality in like somewhere in some quantum computer?
Oh my god, like I have no idea, honestly. It could be. I really don't know. I mean, I wouldn't be, the fact that this is real and then relating that to the fact that this could be a simulation, honestly, they're equally as mind-blowing to me. So it's like, it doesn't matter.
That to me is the ego-dissolving aspect of things. Is once you start realizing, am I a Sims character?
Right.
Is this all not real?
But just because it's a simulation doesn't mean it's not real. We know we're conscious.
Conscious simulations. So what are we, just like holograms?
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, and you just really see, again, subatomic particles are just particles that are vibrating together, but they're never touching. They're not solid. So again, like, it just, I feel like thoughts like that can catapult me into the psychedelic realm.
Oh yeah.
My thinking, or watching a Black Mirror episode.
Yeah. Black Mirror is awesome.
Yeah.
At this last spiritual hippie festival I went to, there were like several quantum physicist speakers there, talking about consciousness and the hologram universe and all this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was awesome.
That's a great book, Michael Talbot.
What?
That's a great book, The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot.
I have not read that one. Is he a quantum physicist though? I feel like I've seen him before.
Yeah, he wrote a book, but he died pretty early on, I believe, of cancer. And he talks about his experiences with a poltergeist and how that might have been just part of his own subconscious, interacting with that. So yeah, and then he goes on into like the little bit of science in there, in reality, talking about his theories on reality. But yeah, all is mind, basically. And that's really what you're interfacing with, like the machine that stimulated the third eye, or your dreams, or your third eye. You know, they're all just hidden aspects of the self, the subconscious.
Have you ever had any encounters with entities on psychedelics?
Oh yeah.
Like machine elves or anything?
My DMT elves shirt is the machine.
Oh, you have one?
Yeah. Go check out my Instagram.
I was looking on your Etsy earlier.
Yeah, I have a DMT elf shirt. Like,
God.
That was the one that was inspired by a DMT trip. That's exactly what I saw. And I didn't want to make it too intricate. Like, you know how a lot of, like, psychedelic art's, like, super, like, intricate and, like, super detailed? It wasn't like that at all. It was, like, a 2D cartoon. You know what I mean? I'll get it and show you.
Yeah.
But it was. Dang it, my dog's right here. Just chilling. The AC.
Oh my god, that's awesome.
And that's the DMT pipe right there. So, like, that's what I saw. And, like, it was just, like, geometry. And, like...
That's such a cool shirt.
But, yeah, that's exactly... I saw it. It looked like a Peter Pan almost character.
Something, yeah.
Almost like, and it was, like, a Martian. Like, one of those, like, old-school cartoons.
Yeah, I've heard that the elves can be kind of, like, childlike, too.
Yeah, it was very childlike, very 2D... Not a lot of, like, you know, like, it was just, like a cartoon, and it was, like, 2D stuff, and I'm like, oh, shit, and they're just, like, coming at me and, like, winking, and that was the pattern that they were in. They were in this pattern of, like, 4 or 5 of them, and they were just winking and smiling at me, and just, like, being really, like, you know, I don't know, like mischievous, like
Yeah, I've heard that for sure.
tricksters, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
that's what.
And it seems like from what I've heard, they get a lot of entertainment from mind fucking humans that see their shit. Yeah. Like they're just, oh, look at this.
Yeah,
and then it's mind blowing, and they just like love that.
Have you had any experiences with the machine elves?
Not that I can remember, but when I hear some descriptions on machine elves, I think I'm like, yeah, like I feel like I talked to them at some point, but I can't pinpoint when it was. I really think I had some kind of experience, but totally forgot it, but it's barely in my mind. Maybe not, though, but it feels like that.
I think it's so crazy, because, like, I listen to, like, a lot of Terrence McKenna. So he has, like, certain, like, landscapes of the DMT, realm. He talks about the first thing that you see is the orange mandala. And I remember that when I was alone in my apartment, when I first started making these videos in Manhattan.
The chrysanthemum. Yeah.
And I had like a gram of DMT, and I just kept on dumping it in my bowl and smoking, dumping, smoking.
Oh my.
Not even measuring.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to break through. And like, you have to have a lot to break through. You can't just like have, and I just was like, it's happening. So I did that for like an hour and just kept smoking and smoking. And I finally found myself, what he talks about, the first thing that happens is the crackling in the ear.
Yeah.
I experienced that. It was a pop and a crackle. And then you smell, like, when you first smoke it, you smell kind of like sneakers, or like almost mothballs, or like the Payless shoe store meme, like that. That's smell. And then like it goes in you, and all of a sudden, all of like the air is like sucked out, and you just feel cold, like euthanasia. And then I remember seeing the chrysanthemum, and after the chrysanthemum, you go through it, and that's when I saw geometry, and the veil lifted. And then I saw past the geometry into like subatomic particles, and talks about the bouncy balls.
What is the veil you're referring to?
It's just this veil that comes up of geometry, and you're like seeing past it. So you see that, and it's just like this machine, and like it comes up. And then I saw the bouncy balls that he talks about, which are really subatomic particles that are bouncing in and out of you to show you what you are. You are just vibration and energy.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that until I did my research, and I started watching videos on quantum physics and understanding, it was just showing me like what I'm made out of, basically.
Yeah. Totally.
Which are like
like Alan Watts gives a great example. You are like a whirlpool in a river. Like you're not separate from the river, but you're like a condensement of energy. My friend Chris gives a really good example, like what we are and what physical matter is like a knot in a rope. It's not separate from a rope, but it's just a condensement of energy,
Yeah, definitely. And that's what I saw, and I'm like, oh my god, this is what he said, and this is what he said, and exactly what he said. I saw it, and then he talks about the dome with the jewels. I saw that, and then he talks about the machine elves. Saw that at the end of another trip. I've tripped, a handful of times. The first time breakthrough, I don't even count that as separate. I just count that as one long binge into this psychedelic experience. And
I know what you mean. Like they all connect, you mean?
They all connect, because it's just like I did it that one night, and I don't count that as multiple trips, even though I had to take, like, I tried multiple times. I tried at least, before I even could get it down, it was like 3 times where I'm like trying to hold it in, not working. by the 5th or 6th time getting somewhere, finally getting somewhere, and then I'm like in, and I'm like, oh, when it just creeps up on you and you're like,
yeah.
What did I do? I've taken too much.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So is the DMT breakthrough, is it like full ego death mode?
It depends. For me, yeah. But
because I've heard some people say it felt like their ego was intact in a certain way and they're just in a different dimension.
It depends. Ego death, it depends, because like you are spirit, so your body, it's the death of your body and your former self, but at the same time you are spirit, so you're still kind of there. Just like, well, I'm not in here, but I'm out there.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's still you. There's still a soul. There's still something. Total ego death is nothing. You disappear. Annihilation. Sleep. Because what do? You just go into...
But comparing it to an ego death experience that one could have on, say, mushrooms, it feels like they're dying and their ego completely dissolves, and all that's left for them is pure consciousness.
Yeah.
Like, that seems different in a certain way than an ego death on DMT, where it's like you're still thinking stuff,
No, I mean, for everybody it's different, because for me, I was pure consciousness on DMT. Yeah. That was the first time I experienced that. And I'm like, whoa, I had never experienced that on mushrooms. I never taken a high enough dose until later, to research that. But I went deep. I went straight for the DMT before anything else. I don't suggest anybody do that. Really.
Was that your first trip?
Well, I told you I had kind of taken a little mushrooms.
A little bit,
and then again a little bit. But I went straight in with DMT.
Whoa.
And then I took mushrooms for healing and acid for healing and MDMA for healing and all this stuff later. But I do not suggest anybody do that, because it's I knew what I was getting myself into. Yeah. But there comes to a point where it's just like everything changes, and you have to be okay with it, and you can't hold on to your former self, your former life, nothing from the past.
Oh yeah.
In order to evolve and change, and there needs to be absolutely nothing there that you feel any attachment to, including, for me, it was friends, family, my possessions, I just left it all,
Yeah. So you think, since you've been following this path, you've disconnected with a lot of people and things in your life?
With monetary stuff, with everything. Like, I don't have nearly as much. The only thing that I invest my money in is art supplies. And like, going to like the Alex Gray thing, and like everything's psychedelic now. Everything's for like mind expanding consciousness. A nice like massage and like float tank and stuff like that. Like, these are the things that you start investing your money and time when you have money. It's not, oh, I want that new car, or I want that house or watch or whatever. It's I want to expand my mind, and I want to experience. So
I love how you call it an investment. That's awesome.
It is. It is.
It is. Yeah, it is.
So
totally.
You're and like it again, like coming from a perspective of being in a psychedelic relationship, like we use that as a bonding experience and to learn and grow together. So like, there is no like, weird energy. When there's something weird, there's something wrong, because we're usually in such a vibration where we're completely in sync and in tune.
Picture of my mom's back here.
What?
I'll be back in a minute to get a picture of my mom's back here.
Oh, okay. Sorry, say that again?
Yeah, we're like completely in tuned and in sync with one another that we know if something's up. We're like, oh, is something wrong? And we just pinpoint the exact thing and then we talk it out. Or we, trip it out or whatever, or have a smoke session and like talk it out, But there's...
You mean like something's wrong, like not aligned inside of us?
When anything in a psychedelic relationship, you use that psychedelic way of thinking in order, like, you're not getting angry, but you start understanding. And that's another way that you just start growing. So like everything just...
And getting to the root of things.
Getting to what, so like, like you start investing in yourself with like, experiences and going to conferences and going to lectures and just, having that experience and going to that music festival. So these are all things that I think, especially this generation where we're facing climate change and we're a lot of population and a lot of just like unsafe conditions with like air and just like living conditions of people and capitalism and all this stuff. It's a lot, and we're coming to like this new state of being, and I think a lot of us are realizing that we don't have to have the normal, whatever normal is, life, and we can pursue, as somebody told me I had an alternative lifestyle. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
I mean,
this sounds like cliche hippie stuff, but society sets up a path that you should go down, and I mean, like, it's not real. It's a construct. You're just born onto this planet, and if you're lucky enough to be born into a country where you can kind of do what you want, I mean, you could do it a whole different way than what society tells you should.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like I'm so blessed to be born in just the right time, born in just the right place. And it's just like, oh man, all of that sadness and fear and isolation and everything was for something, and you needed it.
Yeah.
You needed it, and you just become so much more grateful for all of
the
bullshit.
I have went through some extremely hard and depressing years of my life, but I wouldn't give anything up in my past for $1 trillion, because I just feel so lucky and happy that I found this direction.
So, what advice would you give to people that were struggling with anxiety and depression? What helped you move out of that and come into your purpose?
Well, firstly, it's hard because anxiety and depression can have so many different causes. Mine was very existential, and someone else's might be very situational based on what's happening in their life. But in general, I would say just get to the root of the problem. Just get to the root of it and figure out why it's there, and release it. And you might, it might be a long process to feel like you're out of it for the most part, but I mean, that's how it goes away. It's not going to go away by taking pills or anything,
Yeah. You asked me if I had any entity contact. Have you had any entity or ET contact?
No, nothing that I can point to, actually.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still a lot of experiences to be had.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool. Was there any other topics that you wanted to talk about or, go into more?
There was my whole existential depression and anxiety and like the full short story of how I got through it and like what it was exactly.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm really tired and it's hard to bring that to the top of my mind. But so as far as that goes, I've described this well in the past. Yes, so I told you I've always thought very existentially. And it progressed after I experimented a little bit with psychedelics. And then, not because of that exactly, but I did develop stronger depression and anxiety. And it wasn't about anything specific, really. It was just that mindset, that energy that I was stuck in. So looking at everything in a depressing and anxiety-ridden way, I would think existentially, and that means for me, like thinking about the universe and all of existence and all of eternity. So I would look at that in the worst way imaginable. So I would literally, you might think I'm crazy, like I would literally look at all of existence and just question, is this a bad thing? Like, is the universe not good? Like, am I stuck in this for eternity and it's a really negative thing, you know? And that was really, really hard because it's the biggest thing you could think of in the worst way possible. And so that really, really fucked with me. And I was afraid, and that just like affected me every day. And I was afraid to go into it. I was afraid to meditate. I was afraid to trip because I didn't want to, by some chance, find out that I felt like I was right, that this is not good, that all of the universe is a bad thing. And just in the last 6 months or so, I've really, really gotten out of it through just releasing some negative stuff inside me through like some Kundalini breath work I've done and just meditating. And there's one piece of advice that I heard that pretty much, if I heard it a while ago, would have eliminated that terrible mindset. And that is that the universe is more of a positive force than neutral or negative, because the universe is conscious. Therefore, the universe will naturally do what's in its own best interest. Just like the human body. Like the human body and the human experience is more of a positive thing generally because it's conscious. So it will do what is in its own best interest, what will give it the best results, just like the universe. So it will be better than bad. So it's hard to describe, but if you follow, I hope that helped at least one person out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. Where can people find your Instagram, any other social medias you have, any YouTube stuff?
Pretty much just my YouTube channel. It's Viewsthrume, one word, THRU. Viewsthrume. Cool. Now, one more thing that I wanted to bring up is that people go through their whole life, for the most part, without thinking about their consciousness, without really pondering what it is and really pondering what they could do in life that would bring them the most joy and that would have the most positive impact for the world. That's where I've been the last couple years. I'm only 19, so I've just been strongly thinking about it, and all these psychonauts and spiritual people I feel like are doing that, and it's just mind-blowing to me that people live their whole life without learning how to quiet the mind, without learning what the ego even is, you know? So if you're on the fence, just go into it, I would say. I go into it, meditate, explore these things. Totally.
Yeah, I feel that's why people have a lot of problem with sleep. They have a lot of problems with quieting the mind. You know?
I think that's why a lot of people are not totally happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Too.
Yeah, and I find that a lot. I said that in a podcast with, I think it was It was Touch AC. He's a rapper. And I said, you know, some 60, 70, 80-year-olds are going throughout life still thinking that they're still going to live for the rest of their lives. They never thought about
Yeah.
the next steps. They never thought about consciousness. They never thought about meditation.
Yeah.
But for some people, they've been in very restrictive communities that are stifling them, and the psychedelic way. You know, a lot of people are very scared to come out with this. I was told that meditation isn't very good, and it's, you know, don't do that. You know, everybody was always telling me, don't do that. You know what I mean?
Who told you that?
People in my family. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. Just meditation.
Wow.
Yeah. I thought that was so funny because I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be afraid of your own mind? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so.
That is insane.
Yes, we are living in a state of psychosis, you know, in the natural, not the natural, but the unnatural vibration, which everybody is on. Yeah, definitely.